the Ducks have a new assistant coach that they just hired. It's a great one. I'll talk about that. And also, I got to talk about the new NHL Ducks jerseys that have just been released. And I'll have some final draft thoughts as well as some final thoughts on the AHL season. All of that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade, have contributed to Defend the Nest, also the public address voice for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So as I mentioned at the outset, we've got a lot to get to on this episode, and we're going to start with a hire that the Ducks just made a few days ago, and this was around the time of the Calder Cup Finals, which is why I never really got around to talking about it. But we're going to talk about the new assistant coach for the Anaheim Ducks, and this one I'm pretty excited about. This one I actually did talk to a couple of folks about at Acrisure, and this is the hiring of Rich Clune as the new assistant coach for the Anaheim Ducks. So a little bit of background on Rich Clune first. He did play in the AHL and NHL for a while. SoCal fans might remember him because Rich Clune was a member, albeit briefly, for the Los Angeles Kings. He was also around Toyota Arena when there was some back and forth with the Kings and the Monarchs, and the Reign were a part of the LA Kings, I guess, organizational depth for the ECHL. So we saw a few guys just come around the arena, and Rich Clune was one of those guys. He spent a number of years in the Kings organization, a number of years with the Manchester Monarchs. He also spent some time with, oh gosh, this is like so long, the Toronto Marlies. And this was maybe, I want to say 5 seasons with the Marlies, but he spent a long time in Toronto and eventually helped the Marlies to a Calder Cup back in 2018. He was a guy that was just kind of a bruiser, someone, I guess, in the mold of Pat Verbeek. Let's be real here. Pat Verbeek loves those gritty guys, but he also loves those intelligent, gritty guys. And I think Rich Clune would have been really perfect under a Greg Cronin type system. So some background on his playing days. He was selected by the Dallas Stars in 2005. He scored 7 goals in 139 career NHL games. All 7 of those goals came as a member of the Nashville Predators. He spent quite a few games with the Preds and also spent some time in Milwaukee with the Admirals. In 593 career AHL games with the Marlies, the Admirals, the Monarchs, and the Iowa Wild, he scored 57 goals, 151 points, and a whopping 1,607 penalty minutes. Yeah, love it. As I mentioned, he led the Marlies to a Calder Cup in 2018, and he was also the captain during the COVID year and right after that. And he was an alternate captain in the previous few years with the Marlies. So he was one of the first ones to lift the Calder Cup. He's always been just a great depth piece and really a voice in the locker room. And this is where I talked to a couple of folks down at Acrisure, and they said nothing but really good things about Rich Clune. And I just kind of want to get a barometer on what others thought of Rich Clune. And just a couple things, I won't say who, but a couple things that I got from this was, even though Clune got a lot of penalty minutes, he was a very, I guess, cerebral player. He knew how to get under opponents' skin. He knew how to get to where he wanted to go. So that already is a big plus. And one other thing that I heard is he will get the most out of his players. And this, talking about his assistant coaching, he was the assistant coach after he retired for literally 1 year. He retired only 2 years ago as a member of the Toronto Marlies. He was the captain at the time, and I remember that being a big deal. And last year, he was the main assistant coach for the Marlies after there was a bit of a shakeup in the front office. And when he became the assistant coach, he headed up the forwards and the power play. He took a Marlies team that was crap on the power play, 13% to 22%. That's a big increase. The final 55 games of the season, and he helped them get to a Calder Cup playoffs berth, only to fall to, I think they fell to the Cleveland Monsters in the Calder Cup playoffs. And he started as a player development coach with Toronto, joined them as an assistant coach the following season with the Marlies, and he's just been aces after that. And I think this is fitting. This is very fitting for the Anaheim Ducks because the Ducks need help on the power play. They desperately need help on the power play. There was a report that came out that Rich Clune is going to head up the forwards and the power play. So that's a report that came out really, I think just a couple days ago, actually, that last one came out. So I consider that very good news. Yes, I know the bar isn't super high right now. I know this because the Ducks power play was that bad and the forwards at times were that bad. Some of that has to do with personnel. Some of that has to do with injuries, but it was bad. And the Ducks power play and forwards can only go up from here. So I love the move. Greg Cronin said he will be a blast of fresh energy. Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes you have these younger assistant coaches come in and they just bring the energy. They bring everything they have to a new role and they do well in it. We've seen both the good and bad of this. This will be his first NHL job, by the way. And once again, it is reported that he's going to work with the forwards and their power play units. So that's going to be a big improvement, replacing Newell Brown. I know a lot of you were just angling for Brown's head towards the end of the season. You know who you are. A couple of you that consistently bring questions to the mailbag. You know who you are. You wanted his head. So you got your wish. What do you think of the hire? Is it a good hire? Is it a great hire? I think it's a very good hire, personally. Something else that I really like about him that doesn't get talked about is he raised a ton of awareness about addiction and mental health because he talked about his own demons with substance abuse. He talked about his own mental health. And the fact that he has raised so much awareness about mental health, that's a big deal. I cannot stress how big a deal this is. And he will continue to raise awareness and he'll continue to be a champion for mental health. So off the ice, I love it. I love it off the ice as well. He's assuredly going to help people off the ice, and I really can't wait for that. Something else that I'm really excited about as far as Rich Clune is a lot of the Leafs and Marlies fans. They say the same thing. They say, yeah, we really liked him, and he's very much liked in the Toronto area. So to get that kind of praise from Toronto folks, yeah, I would say that's a pretty significant deal. Once again, Rich Clune did come into the role of assistant coach because Eric Wellwood, he was on indefinite medical leave and he had to leave the Marlies right around American Thanksgiving. So that, I remember that was kind of a shakeup in Toronto, that you just had this big opening now with the Marlies. But it turned out to be a great thing for Toronto. They really turned it around towards the end of the season and nearly got a top spot in that North Division. Nearly took that spot away from the Cleveland Monsters. But hey, hockey works in weird ways. The Marlies were in the division hunt up until the final weekend of the AHL season. It could have easily been Toronto. It could have, I mean, it was Cleveland, but it could have been the Marlies. So who knows? So that's my 2 cents on Rich Clune being named the new assistant coach for the Anaheim Ducks. I hope you're as excited as I am. I cannot wait to see him behind the bench with Greg Cronin, who now finally gets to utilize his own coaching staff. Big, big deal. All right, we're going to head to the first intermission, and we're going to talk about jerseys. Yes, you heard that right. We're going to talk about jerseys. Stay locked in. And now a brief word from the Gametime app. And folks, we are going to enter the dog days of summer, and there's no better place or no better app to get last minute tickets than the Gametime app, because it's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and it makes getting your tickets faster and easier. All it takes is 2 clicks. Boom, boom, and you're done. You've got your tickets, and especially for Angels tickets. Sorry, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim tickets. Yeah, you can get those tickets for $1, $2, $3 on the Gametime app. I looked yesterday. There were tickets for $2 for their next home game, if you could believe that. Yeah, they got last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals for super cheap. You can get some great field level tickets for about $20. And it's easy to find and buy MLB tickets from pretty much any seat at Angel Stadium. They got a lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. So take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason J.D. Hernandez, and we're going to talk about jerseys on this particular segment. And it's very important that we have to talk about the new jersey because it's amazing. First off, the Wild Wing logo is back, but it's a modified Wild Wing logo. It's got a little bit of an edge to it. It's got a more prominent eyebrow. It's got an orange eye. So how it's different from the original didn't have an orange eye. It had a black eye. The hockey sticks were a little bit sharper. Now the hockey sticks are a little bit more curved, looking like a more modern hockey stick. So the logo itself is cool. But the jerseys themselves, oh my God, they're amazing. And I got to give a shout out to Wild Wing and Ducks that have given these jerseys to so many Ducks fans across Southern California. I saw that Paul Skeens, the flamethrower for the Pittsburgh Penguins, or sorry, the Penguins, the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm still in hockey mode. The Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher, he got a jersey. We also saw Guy Bear get a jersey. We also saw Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias. He got his own jersey that says Fluffy on it. These new jerseys are absolutely sick. In fact, I'm just going to put this picture up right now. So as you can see on this picture from the Anaheim Ducks Twitter, I'm going to go from left to right. So from left to right, clean lines and improved balance. And what this means, it takes away from that circle that used to, I guess, envelop the logo. So no longer do you have that white line around the black circle. That's now gone. Also, I mentioned the prominent eyebrow. That's different. The eyebrow is now in a shiny, shimmery gold color. Looks pretty cool, if I might say so myself. The orange tinted eye, that gives it a menacing, mean look, something that I am looking forward to seeing. The primary color of orange. Now, I've had multiple people already tell me that this is a giant, I mean, in so few words, this is a giant middle finger to the Anaheim Angels, because the Ducks wanted to make sure that they were Orange County's team. Let me repeat that. They wanted to tell everyone that orange runs in their DNA, and they are Orange County's team. They are here to stay, and they are very proudly an Orange County team. Gee, imagine that. Imagine having a team based in Anaheim that is very proud of their Orange County roots. They're proud to be associated with Anaheim and not Los Angeles. So you know what? I'll agree with my friends. This is a giant middle finger to the Anaheim Angels or the Los Angeles Angels that they call themselves now. I still call them the Anaheim Angels. I still think they are Anaheim's team. But you know what? Artie Moreno has done away with as much goodwill as possible. I've been on the fence, sell the team, Artie, but that's neither here nor there. Artie Moreno taking away the Anaheim City name from the Angels, it's a middle finger to the fans. And now the Ducks are giving the middle finger back to Artie Moreno. So you know what? I love this move. This is the right choice for the Anaheim Ducks. I love this so much. Let's go back to the picture, shall we? All right. So we got some bold color typography. It's a little bit different font, a little bit more rounded font. The one on this logo, there's a little bit more of a serif, but it looks really cool. I also like, I haven't really gotten an up close look on this. I'll get an up close look at the jerseys over the weekend, but from some of the pictures, it looks like there's a kiss cut stitch on the numbers. And once I get a closer look this weekend, I'll tell you for sure what it looks like. The fonts for the letters are different. I like the little hook on the upper left, which is kind of an homage to their old numbers. So that's kind of neat. The classic heritage colors, also cool. The legacy mark on the shoulders. Yes, it is still the Webb's D, but it is now relegated as a secondary patch. You know what? If that's a secondary patch, I'm cool with that. Also, we have orange shorts, and the shade of orange is a little bit darker than the previous shade of orange that they used to have. So all in all, the Ducks hit this one absolutely out of the park. I cannot wait to see these up close this weekend. It's going to be awesome to see in person. All right, we're going to head to the second intermission. I will have some final draft thoughts and some other hockey thoughts. Stay locked in. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez on this few days after the hockey season has come to an end. I'll talk about that at the end of the podcast. But first, I have some final draft thoughts heading into the Las Vegas draft. First off, I will be in Vegas for the NHL draft, and I'll explain why in a second. But I will be at the Sphere, so that'll be a lot of fun to check out. And as I'm going to sit there and watch this, everyone's going to wonder, who are the Ducks going to take at number 3? Now we're hearing that the Blackhawks are more than likely going to take Levchunov. So really the draft is going to start at number 3. And that's where we'll see maybe some more of the unexpected draft picks, because we've seen that in the past where there have been some unexpected draft picks. And especially at number 3, especially with this year's draft, you never know. And I would think the Ducks are going to opt to get a defenseman in this draft. That's going to be probably their preference, because they need a right-handed defenseman. They need a defenseman, period. They could always use more of those. And I've talked about Levchunov enough, but I haven't really talked about Sam Dickinson a whole lot, because I still don't know if he's a top 3 pick. Now, he is a big body defenseman, 6'3", about 200 pounds, and he's got a great skill set, super great on the power play. But I think as far as trying to be a play driver, trying to really bring a well-rounded game, I would opt for Zane Parekh over Sam Dickinson, but that's just me. The mock drafts as of right now, they're kind of all over the place. Anton Salayev, there's some aspects of his game that kind of rubs me the wrong way. He's made some little mistakes here and there from some of the film that I've seen. And I think it's going to take a while, maybe a little bit longer while to polish out his game. So as much as I like Salayev, I think there's still a little bit of work to be done there. Although you can't teach size, he is 6'7", about 215. So he's a massive, massive body defenseman. You don't see many D-men that are that big that can just be a great defensive defenseman. But there's still a little bit to work on. So I don't know if the Ducks take him at 3. I think they would be reaching if they take him at number 3. So just some thoughts on that. Stian Solberg, his draft stock is rising so much that I see him being taken in the mid-first round to about the 20s. That's where I see him landing. And I talked about this on the previous podcast with that 31st pick. I mean, I like Stiga. Stiga's a fine forward, so that one's pretty good. Andrew Basha, I still like Andrew Basha's game a lot. And some mock drafts have him all the way down at 32. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, I did mention at the start of this segment that I will be attending the draft. And this does relate to the American Hockey League for obvious reasons. I am the PA voice and I do work for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. And it was really tough shaving off this playoff beard. It got pretty thick, folks. I mean, it was starting to get down here. And it was difficult, I mean, both physically because it took a while to get all that hair out. But also from an emotional standpoint, it was pretty tough because the AHL Calder Cup Finals wound up going to the Hershey Bears for the second year in a row. The Firebirds did win Game 1 in convincing fashion, but the big story, Andrew Podorowski was injured during Game 1 and he was out for the rest of the series. And pretty much after Podorowski went out, the whole outlook of the series changed because yes, injuries happen, but some injuries are measured greater than others. And Andrew Podorowski has that championship pedigree. He's won Calder Cups with the Chicago Wolves, with the Charlotte Checkers. He's won multiple Calder Cups. When you lose someone that's an alternate captain, when you lose someone on that first line, that has such a trickle-down effect to the rest of the lineup. And I could tell, I mean, right in front of me, I could tell that the Firebirds were playing a little bit differently without Potsy. So that was tough. The big highlight from Game 3 was El Capitan Max McCormick getting a hat trick in Game 3 and leading the Firebirds to a Game 3 victory. At the time, the Firebirds were leading the series 2-1, and people started to think, wow, maybe the Firebirds could win this thing at home. But the Hershey Bears won 3 in a row, 2 at Acrisure Arena, 2 very, very tough games. Game 4 was kind of a mess all over the place. Hershey won by 1 goal. Game 5 was such a back and forth. The Firebirds had a lead and just let in a couple of bad goals, and Hershey won that one by 1 goal. And then Game 6, a super back and forth, which wound up going towards the Hershey Bears. They won Game 6 in overtime. The Firebirds had their chances throughout Game 6. They had their chances throughout Game 5. They just couldn't pot the puck. So just one of those things. And that's hockey. That happens sometimes. Puck luck can go one way, can go another way. A bad bounce here, a bad bounce there. And Hershey won 3 games in a row by 1 goal. And that Game 6 loss in overtime, that one hurts. That That one really hurt, folks, because for the second year in a row, the Coachella Valley Firebirds lost an elimination game in overtime. 2 years in a row. It could have gone one way, and it didn't. Those are the losses that are the most heartbreaking. Those are the ones that hurt the most. I mean, you could lose by 5, 6 goals, and at least by the end of the game, it's set in. But when you lose in that fashion, when one goal could extend the series, and instead the other goal ends the series, it hurts. It really hurts. Ask certain teams how they feel about losing a game 7 in overtime multiple times to the same team. Yeah, it hurts. It just hurts, folks. So that's how the AHL season ended the same night as the NHL season. So the Hershey Bears, back-to-back champions. Congrats to the Hershey Bears. Congrats to my colleague Jared Ronsky, who's the PA for the Hershey Bears. He's got back-to-back titles. The Firebirds will be back, but maybe not with this same team, because Dan Bilesma, he's leaving for the Seattle Kraken. There's a lot of free agents, so it's going to be tough. And that's partially why I didn't expect at first to go to the NHL draft. So yeah, that's why I just like makeshift shave. So I will be going to the draft. If the Firebirds had won that series, we would have had a rally parade this coming weekend, and I wouldn't have been able to go to the draft. But now that the season's over, and now that I've had a couple of days to kind of just emotionally get back. I mean, that was a very emotional series, and I needed those couple of days off for a plethora of reasons that I won't even bore you with. But it was good that I had those days off to kind of recharge my batteries, and I'm ready for the NHL draft. I'm ready, so I'll be heading out to Vegas, and let's have some fun out there. We'll see what the Ducks do in this NHL draft at the Sphere in Las Vegas. What a cool venue. So I cannot wait. There will be some podcasting happening in Las Vegas. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. And let's have fun and let's enjoy this draft. All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, among others. You could follow me on Twitter X at StimpyJD. You could follow the show's Twitter X at LO_Ducks. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. And let me know if you're headed to the draft. Let me know on Twitter X. You could message me on Twitter X if you are headed to the NHL draft. I hope to see at least 1 or 2 loyal Locked On listeners at the draft. So look forward to seeing you all there. Once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.